Automation doesn't fix a broken process, it scales it. And the faster it runs, the more damage it does before anyone notices something is wrong. The AI routing system went live on schedule, 6 weeks from decision to deployment, faster ticket assignment than any human dispatcher had ever achieved. The service desk leadership celebrated the go-live. Nobody had checked whether the categorization logic the system inherited was correct. It wasn't. And at machine speed, 23% wrong looked a lot like noise until someone counted the wrong team assignments and realized they had tripled. This is the structural failure behind most automation problems. The process being automated already has issues. Those issues are tolerable at human speed because humans notice them and compensate. Automation removes the human compensation, the issues remain. The speed increases, the compensation disappears. And what was a manageable problem in the manual process becomes a reliable, high-volume, consistently delivered failure in the automated one. 3 organizations, 3 automation projects delivered on time and on budget, 3 sets of consequences that were entirely predictable and entirely preventable if anyone had validated the process before automating it. Speed is not the problem, sequence is. The real problem isn't the automation technology. The AI routing at Service Mimir was well implemented. The fulfillment automation at Orbis Health was technically sound. The change approval system at CityGrid achieved exactly what it was designed to achieve. The problem was that each automated a process that hadn't been validated first. That's where ITIL's 7th guiding principle comes in, and why the order of operations matters as much as the operations themselves. Optimize and automate is the 7th and final ITIL guiding principle. It closes the series with a discipline that is increasingly critical as AI and automation become standard tools in IT service management. The principle is not anti-automation. It is pro-sequence. Get the order right, and automation is one of the most powerful levers available. Get it wrong, and it is one of the most reliable ways to scale a problem you didn't know you had. In practice, this principle changes the starting question for every automation initiative. Instead of what can we automate and how fast can we deploy, you ask, is this process correct and can we prove it before we scale it? Those 2 questions add time to the front of the project. They remove months of remediation from the back of it. The organizations that ask them consistently spend less time fixing automation than the ones that don't. This is the visibility problem at the heart of automation governance. In a manual process, a wrong categorization produces a conversation, the receiving team questions the assignment, the sender investigates, the error is corrected. In an automated process, the same wrong categorization produces a ticket in the wrong queue, a silent reassignment, and a data point that gets buried in volume. The error doesn't disappear. The signal that something is wrong disappears with it. These 3 traps share the same assumption, that the automated system is a better version of the manual one. It isn't always. It's a faster version. Whether faster is better depends entirely on whether the process being accelerated was correct to begin with. Validate first, then accelerate. In that order, every time. The decision to pause at Service Mimir was not popular at the time. The go-live had been announced. The business expected the efficiency gains. 4 weeks of additional validation felt like a delay rather than a risk mitigation. 6 months later, the same leadership team was presenting the routing accuracy figures to the board as a case study in how to deploy AI responsibly. The 4 weeks had cost nothing compared to what the alternative would have produced. 3 requirements for responsible automation deployment. Validate at human speed first. Define correct before you deploy. Build monitoring before you switch it on. None of these slow the automation down once it's running. All of them prevent the category of failure where the system runs perfectly while producing the wrong outcome, and nobody knows until the audit. The Orbis Health automation had delivered exactly what the project brief required. Faster processing, reduced manual effort, consistent application of the fulfillment rules. The problem was that the fulfillment rules contained configuration errors that had existed in the manual process for months, compensated for by experienced staff who knew which request types to handle differently. The automation had no such knowledge. It applied the rules consistently, incorrectly, and at 60% higher speed, until the volume of incorrect fulfillments became impossible to attribute to anything other than the automation itself. This is the governance paradox of automation. The efficiency argument for automation is that it removes the need for human involvement in routine transactions. The governance reality is that removing human involvement removes the most sensitive error detection mechanism available, a person noticing that something feels wrong. Replacing that mechanism with monitoring, alerting, and defined thresholds is not optional. It is the governance requirement that makes automated efficiency safe to claim. Ask these 3 questions before every automation deployment. What does correct look like? What governance replaces the checkpoints we are removing? Who owns this when it goes wrong? 3 questions that take an afternoon to answer properly. 3 questions that the CityGrid team wishes someone had asked 8 months before the auditor did. The CityGrid automation team had done nothing malicious. They had mapped the manual approval steps and automated them faithfully. What they hadn't done was ask which of those manual steps existed because a person was performing a governance function rather than just completing a task. 3 of the steps they removed were compliance controls. They had never been labeled as such. They had just been things a person did before passing the change to the next stage. When the automation removed the person, it removed the control. Nobody noticed for 8 months. These 3 costs follow the same arc. Errors compound quietly. Knowledge disappears before the failure surfaces. Exposure accumulates invisibly until an external event forces it into view. All 3 are downstream consequences of automating before optimizing and deploying without governance. All 3 are preventable with a sequence that most organizations know, and most automation projects skip. The shift this principle asks for is a change in the automation conversation. The current conversation in most organizations starts with capability. What can the tool do? How fast can we deploy? What efficiency gains can we report? The conversation this principle requires starts with correctness. Is the process right? Can we prove it? What does the monitoring look like? Who owns it when it breaks? The second conversation takes longer to start. It produces automation that is safe to accelerate rather than automation that is fast to regret. This is the rule that closes this series. Measure, optimize, then automate, and govern what you deploy. Each step in that sequence exists because skipping it produces a known category of failure. A failure that is faster, larger, and harder to reverse than the problem that automation was deployed to solve. The discipline is the sequence. The sequence is the whole practice. 3 actions. Validate the accuracy of one automation that is already running. Map the governance functions of every human checkpoint before the next automation begins. Define what wrong looks like and confirm monitoring exists to detect it. 3 actions that span the full life cycle: what is running now, what is being built next, and how both will be governed. That coverage is the whole practice of this principle. Automation is one of the most powerful tools available for IT service management. This principle isn't a caution against using it, it's a requirement for using it well. Optimize first. Define correct before you deploy. Build the monitoring before you switch it on. Keep the human oversight until the automation has earned the right to run without it. That sequence applied consistently is what separates automation that creates value from automation that scales damage. 3 ways to close this series. Share what you wish you had validated before automating. Those answers will help everyone watching build a better pre-deployment checklist than anything written in a textbook. Check out the Mimir ITIL course for the full picture across all 7 principles. And this week, ask one question about one automation. When did someone last check whether it was correct? Start there. Everything else follows. Share your experience.